Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of From the Studio. I'm your host, Corey Riggs, welcoming you inside our MC22 studio and happy to be with all of you once again. On this week's show, we'll take a look at the St. Louis sports scene. With so much going on, from the drama that has been the St. Louis Cardinals' COVID-shortened season to the NHL and the Blues' defense of Lord Stanley's Cup. To help us navigate all of that, we reached out to the best St. Louis sports tour guide we could find, our friend Tom Ackerman from KMOX. He will join us first on this show. Then we'll get you ready for the college football season here in Springfield, as one of our local universities is getting ready to play this fall, the Evangel Crusaders. Their head coach is Chuck Hepola, now entering his 5th season at the helm of the program. We look forward to talking with Coach about his team, their preseason rankings, and more a little bit later. As always, if you like our show, please let us know on social media. We're open to suggestions on topics to tackle or guests to have on. You can find us on Twitter at FromTheStudio22. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned. KMOX Sports Director Tom Ackerman joins us from the studio after this. Welcome back to From the Studio, everybody. We are now joined by one of the absolute nicest guys you will meet in sports media. He is the sports director at KMOX Radio in St. Louis. How I've got to know him over the last couple years is his part as one of the play-by-play voices of Missouri State men's and women's basketball on TV here locally in Springfield. And he's been nice enough on a very busy day in St. Louis to carve out a few minutes for us. Tom Ackerman joins us now. Tom, how are you doing, man?
Corey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I've really enjoyed working with you on those telecasts down in Springfield. And it's been fun to watch the transformation of Missouri State basketball and to be part of that scene down there. It's a great, great sports town, that's for sure.
Well, you are in the sports town right now as far as things that are going on. We've got a ton of stuff we could talk about. Let's start with the Blues last night. Not the start anybody wanted, and for fans like me, not the start time anybody wanted at 9:30 at night. But this is a team that has really been struggling, 0-3 in round robin play. They come out last night against a young, fast, talented Vancouver Canucks team. They get down 1-0. They tie it up in the first period. They tie it up in the second period. Then they give up 3 goals in the third period, fall in game 1 of this best-of-7 series by a final of 5-2. Where are the Blues' primary struggles right now, in your opinion?
Boy, where are the Blues right now? Where's this team that we're used to seeing now? They looked pretty good in parts of that first and second period, and actually in the third had some chances. But they get beaten in that third period, as you mentioned, 3 goals in the first one. In that third period, they made it 3-2. Jordan Bennington would like to have that back. I mean, that was a soft goal, a routine shot that he normally would save. But they're turning the puck over, they're committing penalties, and putting the other team on the power play also is going to hurt you. And the Blues just need to be disciplined. And it doesn't matter what you think of the officials blowing the whistle. If they are calling penalties, you got to be careful. The Blues looked a step slow against a faster team. I thought their fourth line really missed some of the big hitters that they're normally, Sammy Blais is hurt. Mm-hmm. Ivan Barbashev's wife just had a baby, so, he understandably is missing, but they could use those 2 physical players back. And right now, this team needs to fix things. And if Craig Berube, this is a good test for him. Now, it's 1 game, and it's a long series, and the Blues have shown in the past that they can rally and put some things together, but they are not sneaking up on anybody anymore. People have watched a lot of Blues hockey. They understand what this team's all about. The one thing I worried about going into this postseason is that the Blues are a physical team. We know this, and that they basically imposed their will on teams last year and just kept hitting them into submission, forechecking, and finding a way to grind out wins against teams that had played a full regular season. That's not the case now. Everyone's starting from the same starting block. And so it's different. And when you have fast teams like Colorado and Vancouver, it is an adjustment, and the Blues are going to have to adjust. I think that they'll be okay, but it was just disappointing to see them get out of the gate after going 0 for 3 and really 0 for 4 if you count the exhibition game against the Blackhawks, and it's the same thing. The third period is getting away from them. I love things that I did like. I love Jaden Schwartz's goal, a highlight reel goal to make it a 2-2 game. You kind of felt like, all right, you're back in this thing. Also, it was a late night, so a game that actually started around 9:45. People are slugging coffee to try to stay up, and that might have put a little energy into everybody. That's what they need. They've got to find ways to get a spark, get some energy. They just let the third period get away from them. I do believe that they'll come back and play a lot better on Friday at 5:30 against the Canucks.
The Blues have been outscored 9-0 in the third period since moving to the hub city of Edmonton. Let's shift now from hockey to baseball. The Cardinals have been off for 2 weeks now, more than 2 weeks, with the COVID-19 positive tests. What do you think is the biggest hurdle for them now, or which is more difficult, knocking off the 2 weeks of rust to get back into some semblance of game shape, or the mountain of games that they're going to try to make up, even if they can make them up before October?
They're both difficult. I think the schedule is what it is, and you're just going to have to navigate through it and try to get as many in as you can. You cannot expect to play 60 at this point. It's too many. The Blues have missed 15 games, and they've only played 5. There are teams that, have played. I mean, that's 15's a quarter of your schedule. So it's a difficult thing to make up. I think that if the commissioner sticks to his word that he thinks the Cardinals can play through this season, and he also thinks that winning percentage could be used as a qualifier for the playoffs, and the Cardinals would seem to be in pretty good shape. They have a good nucleus of players, but they have a lot of depth, and they have some players in Springfield that they could bring up pretty quickly, and you all know that very well, that could add to this group and make them competitive. They'd have to make some roster moves to make that happen, but I think that they can. I think the bigger hurdle is probably the one that you said first, which is to get everyone in shape. Look, these guys they were in a hotel room in Milwaukee for a week. Now they're at home. They have no access to the clubhouse. They can't go get baseballs. I mean, they have to deal with what they have at home. They're great athletes, but there's nothing that can replicate pitching to hitters in a live situation. So they'll have to ramp up rather quickly. As we're talking right now, it's still up in the air what that White Sox series looks like. But the fact that they moved the Saturday game back to a night game kind of tells me what their plan is. They're going to give themselves a little more time once the Major League Baseball, once MLB says that they can come out of quarantine, then they'll have some time, get a couple of workouts in, and get ready for a Saturday game against the White Sox, in theory. And also, while we're talking right now, while we're taping this, I mean, this would have been the day that they played the Field of Dreams. It's kind of a sad thing, that they really were looking forward to that. But it is what it is. 2020 is a year that none of us are doing anything that we necessarily want to be doing. We're adjusting. And so that's what the Cardinals will try to do. And I think that they move forward. They still should be competitive. I mean, they have to get through this period of time and get rid of their positive cases. And, the virus snuck in and it was hard to get it out. Now they have to find a way to keep it out and to get themselves back in baseball shape.
2020 definitely has been a challenge. There have been different things that have gone on during the pandemic, like this show. I started this show about 18 weeks ago with just me and Steve and Gerald here in the studio, the three of us trying to put it together. You came up with a pandemic project too that has been wildly popular online. That is the Garage Happy Hour. You do it on Facebook. How did this start? And you got to tell me, how in the world do you get people like Bob Costas and Jackie Joyner-Kersee and Kitty Wallace to agree to come on Facebook with you?
That's crazy. So it started as I was on Twitter, and at 5 o'clock every day, or as many days as I could, I would crack open a beer, and I would sit outside on my patio, and I would just engage followers on Twitter just to see how are people doing. And, you know, it was late March, and people were, I had just gotten home from spring training, and people were just kind of adjusting to this new normal and trying to figure things out. So I thought, you know, for a half hour, let's just talk, grab a drink and let's talk and have a good time. And I called it the Twitter happy hour. KMOX picked up on it and said, what if you did it on Facebook Live? I was a little concerned because I actually hadn't, I wasn't on Facebook at the time. I wasn't really active on Facebook. I had kind of abandoned my account on there. I was way more active on Twitter, and I wondered if my followers on Twitter would come over. So we opened up Facebook Live, and for 2 weeks, I did a show where my daughter would ask me the questions that people were putting up on the screen, and I would just talk sports with people. By week 3, my boss, Steve Moore, said, what if you had a guest on? He's like, don't get me wrong, the show is good. I like it. Well, what if could you reach out to a guest and see if they'd come on, and we'll create a split screen. And so we started this thing where we use software where we can put the live stream on Facebook and Twitter. So we had Kenny Wallace was the first guest, and I'm pretty close to him. He's a buddy of mine, and he agreed to come on. The next week was Kurt Hunziker, the former president of the St. Louis Battlehawks, who wanted to get a few things off his chest after they shut that team down and the XFL down. And then the following week, Chris Pronger, who I've been friends with for a long time, the Hockey Hall of Famer, came on, and it started to really pick up steam after that. So I thought that the formula will be, I'm going to lean on people that I know in the business and that I'm comfortable with, and we're going to make this a show of just me sitting in my garage, just having a chat with people. And we got a sponsor, and we called it the Garage Happy Hour. And Ozzie Smith came on, and then Sterling K. Brown, the actor who I went to high school with, came on. He said yes, and all these people started saying yes. So it's been fun. We've had a good run with it. Coming up on a 19th show here with Albert Pujols. So I'm starting to run out of A-list guests in sports necessarily. If I want to top each one, I may have to start venturing into other areas of the world, which I plan to do. I kind of want this to be a show for everybody, and it has been fun. A little pandemic project that has turned into a nice way to deliver content.
Well, I have so enjoyed them. The one with Bob Costas, who is just an idol of mine, was absolutely epic. You guys fought through some technical difficulties and still pulled off a great show.
And that's the other thing is that, we want it to be relatable. I mean, how many of us have been dealing with like trying to get a signal or we can't, forget to unmute ourselves on Zoom or whatever it is. So David Freese, when I had him on, he spent the first 5 minutes trying to get a Wi-Fi signal, and he ended up out on his driveway and out in his street just to be able to talk. And it was funny. Like, he apologized, and I said, don't apologize. This is fun. The people are loving it. When you mentioned Costas, he couldn't hear me for 10 minutes. So our producer, you know how great these guys are. He put on the bottom of the screen the questions. So Bob said, what are you going to ask me now? Oh, will we play baseball? We'll play baseball before you fix your audio issues. How about that? So we had a good time with it. He's a good man, and only Bob Costas would be able to navigate through something like that.
Yeah, well, it has been fun to watch. We will continue watching, especially when you have Albert on to talk about just being one home run away from catching Willie Mays. Tom Ackerman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on our pandemic project. We appreciate it, man.
Corey, thank you very much. Good to be on with you. Be well.
You too. Tom Ackerman from KMOX in St. Louis. We'll be back with more from the studio here in just a minute.
As COVID-19 impacts our community, Metro Appliances and More continues to serve you. Although our showroom is closed, our business is open. Live chat on our website or call the store and speak to an appliance expert. Metro Appliances and More is committed to serving you safely. Even in uncertain times, Blue Current remains open to serve you. At Blue Current, almost all services can be completed from your mobile device in the safety of your own home. Visit our website for details or download our app. Blue Current is committed to building better communities together.
Hi, I'm Judy Ballou, your host for Dishing It Up. I invite you to join me every week as we watch some of the Ozarks' favorite chefs come into the demonstration kitchen at Metro Appliances and More and prepare some of their favorite dishes.
This is fun for TV.
You do sweet and savory together all the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Watch Dishing It Up on channel 722 in high definition.
From the Studio continues now here on MC22 as we are joined by the head football coach of Evangel University and the Crusaders. He is Chuck Hepola, entering year number 5 at the helm of his alma mater. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm great. How about yourself?
I have got no complaints because in 2020 everybody's got complaints, so there's really no point. But you're one of the football coaches that maybe doesn't have complaints right now because you, as a member of the Heart of America Athletic Conference, that league is deciding to push on and play football in the fall. This weekend, you're getting ready for your first practice. What is that going to look like with the new precautions and social distancing as you get ready to open things up this weekend?
Yeah, funny you say that. I don't have any complaints, but I do have a lot of concerns, and so the concerns part of it is I want to make sure that we're following every procedure necessary so that our guys can get out and continue to play this great game, but also do it in a safe way. And I don't mean we're always safe from a physical standpoint, trying to make sure that guys are safe. But, there's a different type of safe now that we're dealing with. And some of the things that we're doing is, we're kind of putting them in pods, so to say. So like our watering, the way we water on the field is there's going to be watering systems in certain spots, and only that group of guys can go and water there. Okay. So you kind of divide them up that way. We've also purchased masks. So these masks that go underneath their face mask, and that actually is a little bit farther in front of their face, so they can breathe a little bit there. And then we've also got some ski masks that are coming in for some of the skill players, because the current mask that we did purchase, it's out a little bit. And if a guy looks down, maybe a low ball being thrown or a quarterback getting a snap, it can block his vision. And so the ski masks enable those guys to do that. And then, we're constantly, our guys have got obviously masks on. We're constantly reminding them that we're really, unfortunately, one decision away and one perception away of somebody saying we're not going to play anymore. So we've got to make sure that we do our part and do our due diligence to make sure that the guys out on the field are healthy, but also that the people that are really in charge of watching us out there believe that our guys are healthy. And, as of right now, those protocols that we have in place are working. And so we'll do the best we can.
Coach, I've had the pleasure of calling a number of your home games on the Evangel streaming service for the last couple of years. One of the biggest joys or the biggest kicks I get out of covering Crusaders football is the number of local or homegrown talent kids that you showcase every Saturday when you play. I think I looked at the roster last night, close to or maybe slightly over 50 kids from the Southwest Missouri area are on your roster. Why is that so important to you and to this program to recruit your backyard so hard?
I've been fortunate to coach at 5 different universities, and I've noticed that all the universities I've been at that have been successful, that's really what we were doing. And you were starting really kind of working as your core as the area, and then you were working your way back, way out. I refer to it as where we can get to in a tank of gas, because what happens is there's a lot of people in the area that want to continue to support these kids they've been watching since probably even elementary football. And then we've got a good following. In fact, last year we averaged attendance, we're number 1 in the nation. And so that speaks for itself. And when you first of all have local talent and you recruit them and get them on your team, then you've got local people coming to watch, and then you've got tremendous fan base. And then you've got really a tremendous experience for everybody. And that's where it starts. And then obviously we hit other states as well, but we're going to start right here in our backyard in Southwest Missouri, and then work our way. And the football in Southwest Missouri has improved every year, and it's continuing to improve every year. And we found some really good talent here, and goodness, I'm thinking the last 3 defensive player of the years that we've had, 2 of them are local. Josh Evans was a Pleasant Hope, and then Sam Morton was from Stratford. So we've got players a year. 2 of the last 3 were Southwest Missouri kids. So that's something to be proud of.
No, it's something that definitely ties the fan base in when they can see those kids play on Friday night, then they graduate and have the opportunity to play on Saturday. Great names like Will Anawahi from Kickapoo, Will Boswell from Mount Vernon. So a lot of talent that is homegrown that'll be fun to watch in the upcoming season. Speaking of that talent, talk to us a little bit about maybe what are a couple of the positions that are going to be key coming into this year? Who are you having to replace as far as the seniors that you lost for graduation from last year to now?
Yeah, on the offensive side, I mean, you've got, Sam, or not Sam Morton. I'll get to Sam Morton here in just a minute because he's on the defensive side.
Yeah.
But Cam Hardesty, quarterback that was a 3-year starter for us. And of course, we've got Zeke Kawaya that's returning, that's played since his freshman year. And so our philosophy is we're always going to play 2 quarterbacks. And the reason why is because if one gets hurt, you want that other quarterback. And we don't do a true 2 quarterback system. What we do is we play that other quarterback, usually a series or 2, or he might be a running quarterback at times for us and so forth. But what it does is it enables the guy to get out there that's experienced. And so obviously replacing him, replacing Ackerman. I mean, goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
He was an awfully good football player, Jansen Ackerman, and replacing him at the receiver position. But Sam Buckner returns, who had a really exceptional year last year, and Josh Tips returns at the receiver position. Cade Kelly at the center position, who was a 4-year starter for us. So we're replacing him. So on the offensive side, that's for the most part, and obviously another interior lineman as well, Garrett McGuire, who we've got to replace. But really offensively, we return really a lot of running backs, a lot of tight ends, a lot of quarterbacks that have played. Got 2 quarterbacks that have played that are returning, multiple receivers that have played, and so a lot of good football players on the offensive side. Special teams, we've got Raul Avila, who's been a punter for us, that's returning. We've got Noah Gibson kicking, and then we've also got a local player that we signed from Nixa that also kicks, and so we've got some depth there. On the defensive side, obviously replacing Sam Morton, I mean that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Having to replace him and obviously, but nice having Will Boswell and guys like that. And up front, Will Anawahi, who you had mentioned earlier, Seth Cathy, Noah Williams, Josh Keys, guys like that. So we've got some really good talent on all 3 phases that are returning, and so it's pretty exciting to know that we've got some kids that have played a lot of football on Saturdays that are still playing this coming school year.
Coach, one more thing before I let you go. You have coached at a lot of different levels at 5 different schools like you talked about. I've been thinking about this all week with all of the changes to the football landscape, with some colleges and universities pushing their seasons back into the spring, and with some states requiring that high school football pushes back into the spring. How do you think this is going to affect recruiting? Because you've got different colleges and universities like yourself playing in the fall, but some Power 5 schools playing in the spring. You've got different states that are electing to play their high school ball in the spring, and some like Missouri and Texas that are going to go ahead and give it a go in the fall.
Yeah, and it depends on the level. Obviously the highest level schools, the FBS schools, they're going to still have their early signing period, and they're going to still sign those kids. I mean, there's probably going to be some kids that decide to go ahead and not play in the spring, but possibly early enroll at the school that they are signing with. And that's, I've been at places where we've had some kids early enroll, but you're probably going to see a lot more of that now because of what's going on there. Now, honestly, a school like us, that benefits us, because what happens is when kids commit and they start signing, then you have a lot of kids that are hopeful to play at that level. And of course, those spots are filled, and so it works its way down. The thing that's going to be interesting is really coaches not being able to get out and have really great evaluations like we normally do. And because the evaluation is more than what you just see on the film and what you see on the field. You want to really sit down with the kid. You want to make sure that you got transcripts in place, ACT or SAT scores in place. You want to make sure that you can sit down with that kid and really see if he's a great fit for your university. And people don't realize that it doesn't matter what university you're at, there's going to be a fit. I mean, prior to Evangel, I was at Nicholls State, which is in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And so it's in the heart of Cajun country. And so there's a fit for, Nicholls State when I was there. I was at the University of Tulsa, which is a very, very high academic school. There's a fit at the University of Tulsa. And so each school has a fit. And during that part of the recruiting process, you want to be able to spend time with that kid to know if he's going to stick, because we say it this way, like I'm a music lover. I love music. And so you might say, what's the point of recruiting? Well, it's like this. If I go and listen to a band on the radio and I hear them in concert, it better sound the same. Because if the band doesn't sound the same in concert as on the radio, I'm like, what are they doing behind the scenes to make it sound that way? And that's really how a school is. We want to make sure that when a young man comes to our university, that the picture that we painted for him is exactly what he's expecting. And if he feels that way, then he's going to stick at our place. Well, with the same thing for us, we want to be able to talk to that young man, and what we expect from him is going to be the same. And so you got to be able to spend a lot of time with them. And it's not always advantageous just to talk to somebody on the phone or via text. And so it's going to be definitely different, but it's going to be I don't say a new normal. It's going to be a new temporary, I guess is the best way to put it. And because this is going to be new, but it's going to be temporary. And eventually, this too shall pass and we'll all be ready to go.
Well, we will be too. Best of luck to you this weekend as you begin practice with the Crusaders. We cannot wait to see you and your team out on the field for the season opener September 12th against Clark. Coach, thanks for the time.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Coach Chuck Hepola join us. We'll be back to wrap up from the studio here in just a minute. That will about do it for this episode of From the Studio. Remember, you can follow this show on Twitter at FromTheStudio22, or you can follow me at Corey Riggs TV. If you've got an idea for a topic or a guest, please send them our way and we'll try to get them on an upcoming show. Before we go, I thought I would end this week's show with a happy birthday wish to the place most of you watching this call home. On Monday, August 10th, the state of Missouri turned 199 as a part of these United States. At our capital in Jefferson City, they broke ground on the Bicentennial Bridge, a footbridge that leads to Adrian Island. It will be a pedestrian and bike linkage that will connect the capital to the historic Missouri River. As we push through these challenging times, we can all look hopefully toward August 10th of 2021 as a time when all Missourians can once again come together en masse and show out for what will be the Show Me State's 200th anniversary. I look forward to a big party with so many reasons for all of us to celebrate in the not so distant future. Our final thank yous for this show go out to our guests, Tom Ackerman from KMOX in St. Louis and the head football coach at Evangel University, Chuck Hepola. And as always, thanks to all of you for watching. Until next time, for our MC22 crew, I'm Corey Riggs saying so long from the studio.